Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I have a yoga mat, but if you don't worry about it. Find a place in your house that is not super slippery or hard. Maybe you have an area that's carpeted, or you could use a rug as your stand-in yoga mat for today. I have a couple of blocks, but you could use thick books as a great substitute, and a folded blanket, which is the throw blanket from my couch. Maybe you've got one of those, or a beach towel. Let's start standing at the front edge of our mat, or imaginary mat, with our feet hip distance and parallel. Add a soft bend to your knees. Turn your palms away from one another, but let that originate at your shoulder joint. Your chin is parallel to the ground. We're gazing at what I like to call our bright horizon. And we're also gazing inward, turning the arrows of attention inward instead of distractedly outward. We use our breath as a tool for that. Our breath goes two directions. Our mind is capable of going a million different directions. So let's pay attention to our breath, use it as a way inward, and stop so that we can start. Adding some movement to our breath, we'll inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and simply exhale, float your arms along your sides, palms face out. That much again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then float your arms along your sides. Adding to that, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction your hands to uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips, but try to keep the length in your spine. And then inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, V shape, and we'll pause, floating our arms along our sides. Let's keep adding. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, but maybe they slide to your shins or your ankles. I just ask that you keep a long spine. Inhale, uplift your heart with that long spine. You can slide your hands up. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips and fold. And then rise, reach, arms to the sky, V shape, and we'll stand in our mountain. Keep adding, friends. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart, slide your hands up. Now bend your knees as deeply as you need to get your hands flat on the ground, shoulder distance, palms flat. Step back, lift your hips high, press into your arms. Let's stay high on our tiptoes and walk our feet as wide as our mat. Oomph into your arms. What I don't want is a collapse of elbows out to the side and shoulders in your ears. So as you press into your mat, feel like there's a hook in your tailbone. Length to your spine and nice straight arms. Walk your feet forward, hip distance to your hands. Then bring your hands to your ankles, shins or thighs as we lift our hearts, and exhale, fold back in. Rise, reach, arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then float your arms along your side, and let's keep flowing. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, glide your hands up, lift your heart up, bend your knees deeply, palms flat. Like a hook in your tailbone, press into your arms, lengthen through your spine, no rounding in our spine, down dog. Come to a plank, shoulders over wrists. We don't collapse in between our shoulder blades. We keep pushing the ground away. And then bring your hips high as you come to down dog. Walk your feet to your hands. They are hip distance, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as we uplift our heart. Hinge back in, folding, breathing. Inhale, rise, reach, arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms along your sides. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Hinge at your hips and hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Slide your hands up as we inhale and lift our heart. Bend your knees deeply. Palms flat first, step back. Hook in your tailbone, oomph into your arms, down dog. Shift it to plank, shoulders over wrists. Bring your knees to your mat right underneath where they'd be in a plank and double check to really press into your arms. Slide a little forward in one piece all the way down onto our belly. Uncurl your toes. Bring your forearms onto your mat, parallel to the sides of your mat. Sphinx pose, traction your elbows towards you and draw your chest through the gateway of your arms. Press into the tops of your feet until your kneecaps come off your mat so you feel activated in your whole body. Lower down, slide your hands next to your ribs and curl your toes under. Your belly is firm. In one chunk, we come to all fours. And then we lift our hips up for down dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands, their hip distance, and hands come to ankles, shins, or thighs as we lift our heart up, and then exhale, fold, hinge, back in. Inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up, uplift your heart, bend your knees, palms flat, hips high, down dog. From down dog, we shift to plank, shoulders over wrists with our belly firm, knees down, and then in one piece all the way down onto our belly, uncurl your toes. Either keep your hands where they are for cobra or return your hands to the position we took for sphinx. Lower down, curl your toes under, firm through your belly, come to all fours, and then lift your hips up and make it down dog. Remember, long spine priority. Walk your feet forward to your hands, their hip distance and parallel, hands to ankles, shins, or thighs as we uplift our heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold. Inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we'll stand and pause in our mountain. Adding on to our flow. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs, your shins, or your ankles. Inhale, glide your hands up, lift your heart. Exhale, fold, bend your knees, palms flat, step to down dog, hips are high. Lift your right leg back behind you, and then step your right foot forward, and for most of us that means help it along. Stay on the ball of your back foot. You might take your two blocks and put them tall on either side of your mat to give you something to really find space in your spine. We're drawing our right hip back and our left hip forward a little bit. Add bend to your back knee, come upright, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, maybe even a V. And then hands to your blocks, eventually to your mat. Palms flat, down dog. Lift your hips up high. Remember, we're not rounding our spine. Then lift your left leg behind you. Step your left foot forward. You might need to help it along, no shame in that. And then hands to blocks or your fingertips on the ground. But I think blocks elevate the whole situation in every way. They give us an opportunity to find length in our spine. Keep a little bend, add a little bend to your back knee. Firm your belly, come upright, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, maybe even into a V. And then hands to your blocks, and eventually hands to the ground. Down dog, remember, long spine priority, hook in your tailbone. Walk your feet to your hands, hip distance. Take your hands to your ankles, shins, or thighs as we inhale and lift our heart. Exhale, slide your hands down as we fold back in and then rise and reach. Arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky, and we'll stand in our mountain and pause. Adding on. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up, and as we exhale and fold, bend your knees, palms flat. Step back into your very long spine, down dog. Lift your right leg behind you and step that right foot forward. Feel free to help it along. From here, hands to blocks, possibly, and good to have our blocks right where I've said is a nice position for them. We're adding on to our sequence here. Upright into crescent, maybe a V shape. Now, slow motion and very carefully, with your arms out to the side, Turn your left foot flat and heel toe your right foot over to the left, opening out to our warrior two. Feel free anytime you want to or need to straighten that front leg and rebend it, and even to lower your arms and lift them back up so that you feel like you're taking care of yourself here. We have a number of postures all in a row, so I want you to take agency to take breaks along our journey. Right forearm across your thigh and left arm up to the sky. You have the option to take your right hand onto your tall block on the outside of your right foot. If you don't have a block, I'll give you ways to do these things, but blocks are a really important way to find some space and safety. If your left arm gets tired, you can take the back of your left hand to the small of your back and weave that arm behind your back anytime. We'll stay for 3 moments exactly as we are here. And then we'll slowly start to straighten that right leg by pressing into our right big toe mound. Now here's a few things that are important. It's not a side bend. So if you have your hand on your right thigh, you're pressing a little bit against your hand with your thigh bone. You're not pressing that into hyperextension. And we want to think of a hinge at our hip and an elongation of our spine. Inner upper arms are moving away from each other. You still have the option of turning your left back of the hand to the small of your back and then finding that half bind. Either stay exactly as we are now, or possibly for a few of us, left hand on your hip, move your block a foot out in front of your right foot, and see if you can briefly float your triangle onto that right leg. This is optional. You can stay with triangle. We're stepping back to join you in triangle right now. So if you stepped it up to balance, move your block back to the outside of your right foot. Get settled into our triangle pose. From our triangle pose, bend your right knee, come up into warrior two, but it would be a good idea to move your block off to the side as you do. Listen carefully, spin on your left toes, turn your chest to face forward. Take your hands to your 2 blocks, eventually to your mat, and then step into down dog. A little interlude in between sides of that long sequence. Come to plank and bring your knees to your mat in one careful piece all the way down onto your belly. Uncurl your toes, come into cobra or sphinx pose. Lower down enough that you can curl your toes under, come through all 4s. Long spine, hook in our tailbone takes us into our down dog. From down dog, lift your left leg behind you. Step your left foot forward, help it along if it needs it. Come up slowly, maybe by way of your blocks, into crescent arms out to the side. You can take a V briefly, but then we want arms out to the side. Right foot, back foot flat as we inch our left foot over towards the right a little bit and open into our warrior two. Now we're not letting that left knee fall in. We want to think left thigh bone over to the left. Then take left forearm across that left thigh. We're not collapsed into our shoulder, so get a little karate chop action. If your top arm gets tired, you can turn the back of your hand to the small of your back. And like I said on the first side, it's a long sequence. If you need to take a moment and then come back into it, just do so mindfully. 2 moments here where we are. Now you can take your left hand to your block on the outside of your left foot already. We will begin to straighten our left leg by pressing our left big toe mound into the ground. Now if you're using no block, I want you to be very conscientious of pressing that thigh bone against your hand, and I encourage you to find a tall book in your future for these poses. And it's great to stay just where we are. You don't have to add this next little shenanigan unless you really want to. Right hand can come to your hip. In a very brief moment, we take our block about a foot out in front of our left pinky toe. Just see if we can float the triangle on one leg, and it's brief. and in my case, very wobbly apparently. Look down, move yourself back into the triangle pose that many of us opted to stay in the duration. Bend your left knee, firm your belly, take your block off to the side and come upright into your warrior two for a moment. Spin on your back toes, gently, carefully turn your chest to face the front edge of your mat. Take your hands to your blocks, and then eventually take your hands to your mat. Step it to a down dog. Walk your feet forward, hip distance to your hands, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as we uplift our heart. And then exhale, hinge at your hips and fold it back in. Then rise, reach, arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky, a V, and we stand in our mountain and let that pretty long flow settle into our bodies, our minds, our spirits. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up, bend your knees deeply enough that our palms go flat, and we step to a down dog. From down dog, lift your right leg and step into a pyramid pose, so help it along. Trot your blocks on either side of your right foot. Turn your back foot flat, heel toe, right foot to right, and then see if you can straighten your leg a little bit or quite a bit, but keep length in your spine. So it's a little dance, a little sweet spot dance. Keep your left hand on your block and take your right arm up to the sky, thumb to the sky. We're trying not to swing our hips out to the right. So imagine staying true to your pyramid pose in the lower part of your body. Let the twist happen in the upper part of your body. Unwind, take your right hand on your block, spin on your back toes, move your blocks about a foot out in front of you and lift your left leg back behind you in a letter T. You might take a couple of moments to find a bit of balance here. And then keep your left hand on your block and take your right arm up to the sky in a twist. We'll pause. Then right hand on your block. Left foot hip distance from right into a chair. And in our chair pose, hands in a prayer. Hinge at your hip. Keeps length through your spine, and either take your left elbow inside of your left thigh or maybe venture your left elbow outside of your right thigh for just a couple of moments here in a twisting chair pose. Exhale. As you fold, move your blocks off the two sides of your mat. Bend your knees deeply, place your hands on your mat, step back to down dog. Very nice long spine here. Lift your left leg behind you, step it forward into pyramid pose. Back foot is flat, blocks on either side of your left foot. Inch that left foot over to the left a little bit. Keep your right hand on your block. Reach your left arm into a twist up towards the sky. Try to keep that positioning of your pyramid pose happening in your low body. Unwind, left hand onto your block, spin on your back toes, step forward with your blocks and lift your right leg off your mat in a letter T. Maybe a brief moment of play as you take a little prayer underneath your heart for a moment. And then ultimately, right hand stays on your block. Left arm to the sky as we spin open in a twist here in our letter T. Return your left hand onto your block and step your right foot hip distance from your left. We'll take a chair pose just like this, and then hands in a prayer, and either right elbow on the inside of your right thigh or right elbow on the outside of your left thigh as we twist for just a moment or two here. Then unwind and take your hands to your blocks and then off to the side. palms flat, hands on your mat, step back into down dog. From down dog, shift to plank, shoulders over wrists. Bend your knees, place them carefully on the ground. In one piece, we lower all the way onto our belly. Uncurl your toes and bring yourself into cobra or sphinx pose. Lower down, curl your toes under, come to all fours. And then from all fours, simply swoop your legs around in front of you. Find your folded blanket. Likely sitting on your folded blanket will be a nice addition to what we have in store next. Get your 2 blocks within reach. Straighten your legs out in front of you. Let's sit tall first as if we were in our mountain pose, though we happen to be seated. Lots of flow. Now we get grounded. Our cool down, you might call it, of our practice. Now bend your right knee, step your right foot on the ground, and then over your left leg onto the ground. And let's first curl our left toes back towards us and hug our right knee towards us, growing tall through our spine. So this stays the priority of our recipe. Now you might take your block and reach your right hand onto your block so that you stay tall. You can just keep hugging your left elbow around that right knee. You might even hook your left elbow outside your right thigh, but we're gonna get silent here for a full minute. And I want this to be a twist that feels fluid and doesn't feel like you're forcing. 45 more seconds together here. Unwind carefully. Step your right foot on the ground and then straighten your right leg out in front of you. Might feel good to waggle your legs out in front of you. And then bend your left knee. Place your left foot on the ground. And step your left foot over your straight right leg. Let's give a hug to our left shin to really grow tall and remind our right toes to curl back towards us. And then as we construct our twist, maybe left hand on a block gives you even more space to play with. You can hug your left shin with your right elbow, maybe even take your right tricep, or right elbow, pardon me, outside of your left thigh. And then let's get silent here for our twist. Unwind carefully, left foot over right, and then we extend that left leg out in front of us. Let's take, just for a moment, our 2 straight legs. They could be hip distance or all the way together. Turn your blocks tall, walk yourself out, and feel like you're tractioning almost into that sphinx pose, pulling your hands on your blocks and your chest through the gateway of your arms. So I'm not the least bit interested in trying to get my face close to my legs. I'm very interested in a long spine, a hinge at my hips, and the sensation that I'm feeling in the back of both legs. And if you're joining me there, great, we've arrived. Let's pause a moment here. As we come upright, you can take your blocks off to the side. You might want one of them in a moment for something that we're going to do. Bend your knees and place your feet on your mat, hip distance. Come off of anything you're seated upon. Lie down on your back, take your arms overhead. Easy bridge, so you'll lift your hips up carefully, lengthening your tailbone towards the backs of your knees. Then lower your hips to your mat. Cross your right ankle on top of your left thigh. Let your right toes curl back. This could be plenty. You may want to block underneath your head. You could thread the needle with your right hand through the space and hold on to either your left shin or your left hamstring, but you'll design this so that it makes sense for you, and we'll get silent for a full minute and stretch our hips here. Place your feet flat on your mat. Cross your left ankle on top of your right thigh. One side might be really different from the other. I know that that's true in my body. Now, you could just stay here. You might thread the needle, left hand through the space around your right hamstring or around your right shin. Perhaps that block underneath your head is helpful. A full minute of silent meditation in this side of our hip stretch. Now release your feet onto your mat and walk your feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees fall in on each other and ever so gently lift your hips up, make a little space. Let your hips come back to your mat, snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, extend one leg and then the other leg, and find your Shavasana final meditation. You can close, even cover your eyes. Let's rest and digest. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation for as long as you'd like. If you're ready, stretch your arms and legs away from each other, bend your knees, place your feet on your mat, roll carefully to either side. Bring yourself up into any comfortable way to sit, palms up or down. Just take a second to appreciate this practice and how it leaves us feeling. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together.